from the sun, and the ultraviolet ray is harmful to the body, so it protects the body by absorbing ultraviolet rays. Then another function of the skin is the sensory function. The skin contains sensory nerves which are sensitive to stimuli of heat, touch, cold, pain, and pressure. You know, I mentioned it the other time that you have receptors, cold receptor, touch receptor on the skin. So you are able to feel, you can feel it, you can feel touch, you can feel cold, you can feel pain and pressure. Then also, the skin picks up impulses and transmits them to the brain for appropriate action. You know, like I was saying the other time, that when you feel cold, there is a stimuli or an impulse that is transmitted to your brain. There's an impulse transmitted to your brain, and the erector muscles will be in action, will swing into action to shield the body. So that's another function of the skin. It sends impulses and it transmits them to the brain for appropriate action against the reaction of the impulse that has happened. Either touch it. You know, sometimes you are just in a place, maybe you are alone, and you just feel something move on your body. There is a reaction that you can quickly jump or react. That is there was an impulse sent to your brain that brings about that reaction. It might even be a reflex that you didn't even think about it, just and you move, you swing into action. So that's another function of the skin. Then the next function is excretion. Excess water, carbon dioxide, salt, and urea are carried to the sweat gland by the blood or the blood vessels as waste products. So they are expelled through the sweat pores that are on the skin. Then the next function, the skin regulates the body temperature. Animals are divided into two based on temperature control. We have the homothermic and the poikilothermic, that is the warm-blooded animals and the cold-blooded. And animals are described as warm-blooded because they can maintain a fairly constant body temperature irrespective of environmental temperature. And such animals, we have birds and mammals, are major warm-blooded animals. So whether the weather is hot or cold, they can make sure that they balance their body temperature. There is no serious variation in the body temperature of mammals and birds. They can maintain a balance, and that's why they are called homeothermic or constant temperature animals. Then for the other group, we call them poikilothermic or ectothemic animals, and they are also called cold-blooded. And the reason they are called cold-blooded is because their body temperature changes with fluctuation in the environmental temperature. That is why when you take a fish, for instance, out of the water and you just put it on land, it will not last. Why? The temperature has changed and it cannot adapt. Its temperature will change because it's no more in the water that it used to be. So their temperature changes almost immediately with the change in the environmental temperature. So that's why we call them cold-blooded. And examples of cold-blooded animals, we have fishes, we have reptiles, and all invertebrate animals are also cold-blooded. I'll now be talking about the mechanism of regulation of body temperature as related to heat loss or gain, especially when the temperature is lower than the body temperature. I'll be talking about 4 physical processes: radiation, evaporation, conduction, and convection. Radiation is the diffusion of heat from a warm body to relatively colder objects through the air, and it can be a major source of heat loss. For instance, when a man is sitting in a room whose temperature is colder than his body, he will lose the heat in his body to the environment because the environment is cold. Then the next one is evaporation. Evaporation is the change of a liquid to a vapor, and it's always accompanied by cooling of that body. Heat is also lost from the body by evaporation. The third is conduction. Conduction is the transfer of heat from a hotter body to a colder one when the objects are in direct contact with each other. For instance, a man sitting in a cool room we lose it to the floor and to the chair that is sitting on. Then the last process is convection. Convection is the movement of air resulting from local pockets of warm air being replaced by cold and vice versa. So when there is movement of air that is being replaced by warm air being replaced by cold air, or cold air being replaced by warm air, so that is convection. And the air movement speed, they speed up loss of heat by radiation and evaporation. These processes, these four processes that I've talked about, they work in both ways. If the environmental temperature is higher than the body temperature, it can be gained by radiation, conduction, and convection. So the process by which mammals gain or conserve energy, that's what I'll be talking about next. Processes by which mammals gain or conserve energy. First, by metabolic activities of living cells. For instance, oxidation of food substances in tissue respiration. You know, by the time you eat, you become warm. So that's a metabolic activity. So that's a process of gaining heat. Then the next one, when there is increase in metabolic rate, particularly of the liver or muscle, you also discover that you gain heat. Then shivering, that is the rhythmic involuntary contraction of the skeletal muscles. For instance, when the environment is cold, you begin to shiver. So the body generates heat by that process when you begin to shiver, even though it's an involuntary action, but it helps to raise the temperature in cold weather. The temperature of the body becomes increased in cold weather when you shiver. Also, the subcutaneous fat in the dermis of the skin serves as an insulator and reduces heat loss from the body. Then another way you can get it is when you massage the body. For instance, by the time you rub your body, you feel heat. Then when you sit in the sun, you also get heat. Or when you sit near the fire, those are the processes where you can get heat. Then the last process that I'm talking about is the action of hormones. For instance, thyroxine increases the combustion of tissue. So that also helps mammals to gain heat. Then the ways by which mammals lose heat to the environment: radiation, conduction, and convection from the blood in the capillaries of the skin make you lose heat. Then when there is evaporation from the sweat, evaporation of sweat from the skin, you also lose heat. Then when you defecate, you lose heat. When you breathe out, you also lose heat. What are the ways we can take care of our skin? First is cleanliness. When you wash your skin, you wash your body. Then balanced diet. By the time you eat balanced diet, the skin is good looking. You exercise the body. Is another way of taking care of your skin. Then you cover your body. You prevent exposure to sunlight, exposure to too much cold. Then even your legs, when you wear shoes, you prevent some diseases that you can contact by walking barefooted or even in water areas. So covering your body. Then you use body cream that will enhance the look and the production of some chemicals in your body. Then avoid direct exposure to sunlight. Then avoid the use of sharp instruments or chemicals on your skin. So those are the ways you can care for your skin. Now the next thing I'll be talking about, still under regulation of internal environment, is hormones. Hormones are chemicals or organic substances that are produced in minute or small quantities by the ductless or the endocrine glands and tissue in one part of an organism, which are essential to normal functioning of the body. So that tells you that hormones are chemicals. They are produced in small quantities by either the ductless or the endocrine glands in one part of the organism, and it is essential to the normal functioning of the body. The human body consists of two sets of glands. We have the exocrine and the endocrine gland. The exocrine glands include the salivary gland and the tear gland. through which they excrete body fluid to the outer surface, so their effects could be seen physically. But endocrine gland, internal, they are without ducts, so they secrete hormone directly into the bloodstream, and the hormones are then carried to specific organs where they act to regulate growth, metabolism, sexual maturity, and even homeostasis. So hormones are produced in small quantities. Okay, the endocrine glands now, I said they secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. So, and they are now carried from when they are produced to where they need to act in growth and the various metabolism. The endocrine glands in the head, the neck, and the trunk, they make up the endocrine system. And the main ductless gland that are found in the vertebrates are the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the parathyroid, the adrenal, the pancreas, and the gonads. This is illustrated in the body of this man. You see the various glands, the pituitary, the thyroid, the parathyroid, you have the adrenal, you have the pancreas, and the gonads. So those are the various ductless glands that you have in the vertebrates. So we'll be talking more about these hormones and their function. The first is the thyroid gland. The hormone is called the thyroxine. Thyroxine is secreted by the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland, okay, I'll be talking about the normal effects of these hormones. I'll be talking about their oversecretion and their undersecretion. What effects do they have when they are normally secreted, when they are secreted in excess, and when they are secreted in quantity that is lower than what is needed? So the normal effect of thyroxine is stimulate growth and development of young animals. Then it also controls metamorphosis in toad. The thyroxine, when it is normally secreted, it stimulates the rate of metabolism in man. Now, when you have thyroxine being secreted in excess, it increases the rate of metabolism, then it increases the rate of heartbeat. Like the person is hyper